Since 2015, Jared Stillman has rocked Nashville sports.
That team freaking stinks.
And now he's back. The takes are hotter than ever.
I mean, let's be honest, he just can't coach.
Welcome to Stillman and Company.
Stillman and Company of the 440 Sports Network, presented by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Day number 1 of minicamp is in the book for the Tennessee Titans, the mandatory minicamp. And let me just say, of the open OTAs, and I think I missed one of the open OTAs, but of the open OTAs today was the best day Cam Ward had. But he ended it very, very poorly. We'll get to that. Plus, what everybody was saying today. I heard what Robert Saleh said. I heard what Brian Dable said. I heard what Cam Ward said. The reason today's live stream is 30 minutes late is because I am a believer that if you're going to talk shit, you're going to, at some point, people are allowed to say something back. Cam was going to talk with the media. I said, I need to go to Cam's press conference. I went to Cam's press conference. We'll have a full reaction there. Plus, I have a take today that you're not going to like. I'm going to tell you right now, I don't like this take. But it is how I feel. And we're going to have to get that out there and get on with it and so on and so forth. And yes, I did see what Robert Saleh had to say today about how Cam's been outstanding in OTAs. And that's going to kind of be our leadoff. We'll just talk about what happened today at minicamp, and then we'll get into, again, the take of the day that, we'll get to that in a second. First, though, as I always do, I got to tell you about our presenting sponsor. That's Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. I love Hiller. They take great care of my home, and they could do the exact same for you. I absolutely love Hiller because Hiller, whenever there's an issue, we go right to happyhiller.com. I just go right on my phone. So let's say we have an issue with a sink, or let's say we have an issue with a light, or let's say we have an issue with our HVAC, which this time of the year you have a problem with your HVAC, you are in trouble. I just pull out the phone and I go right there and I sit back and I say, okay, just going out here, just happyhiller.com, bang, 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 bang. And then they're there usually the next day. You can book a 2-hour window. They send you an update of where the technician is on his way out. It's great. Try it out for yourself. happyhiller.com. I love Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. They'll take great care of your home, and I can vow that this will happen and that I know this because they take great care of my home. That's Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Proud supporters of the Preds, the Vols, and Vandy. That's Hiller. Call the Happy Face Truck today. One person says, I'm tired of Cam saying that his bad throws are mostly him trying to see what he can get away with. Maybe he should wait and try that shit after he masters the offense. I think that that's kind of a gray area about they're trying things out in practice, but we'll add that in there. So I'm just going to first give you a thought on what happened today at practice, specifically as Cam is concerned, because for the most part, it was kind of a sleepy practice, but there were some decent team periods. Cam had a nice throw to a wide open Carnell Tate. He hit Tate in stride in, I think it was team period, and Tate was coming on a dig, and it was a nice throw, and Tate caught it. And with Tate, it's like butter watching him run his route and catch the football. Again, you know how I feel about Carnell Tate. I will say I do want to see when the pads come on how Tate deals with that aggressiveness at the line of scrimmage. You know, they try to jam him. How's he going to deal with that physicality? I think he'll be okay because he was okay with it at Ohio State, and he's a very good route runner. He's very crisp, and he's got incredible hands. So, that's kind of my thought on Tate. Cam had a nice throw there. There was a team period where they were practicing in the red zone. Cam had 2 nice plays back-to-back. One was one of those backyard football. You know what I'm talking about. Cam runs around, puts a little shake and bake, and then he turns around to the middle of the field and hits Daniel Bellinger, which put them into scoring range. Very good throw. And then on the next play, Cam, and I want to say it was Ridley, but maybe it was DK. Maybe it was Tate. Cam facing the rush, drops sidearm, and puts sidearm, puts the ball right on the receiver. The ball was at the 3-yard line or whatever, but it was a tough throw to make. And Cam just dropped it sidearm and just put it right there for the receiver. It was a good throw. And at that point, I'm saying, okay, this is the best practice so far of this offseason that I've seen Cam Ward have. And I'm saying, hey, this is the best he's done. Again, it wasn't spectacular. It wasn't, but it was accurate. It was crisp. It was okay. There weren't really any of those throws where I looked around and looked at everybody and put my hands up and said, well, Jesus Christ. There wasn't any of those. Then the end of practice. They're doing low red zone. Cam goes back out there with the ones, and he throws a pass for Wan'Dale Robinson that is just too tall. And it kind of reminds me of the throws earlier in OTAs that he was trying to hit Tajay Spears out of the backfield. One where Spears had to come back like this. Another where Spears had to jump up and had to be Victor Wembanyama in order to catch it. He threw one over the head of Wan'Dale Robinson where Wan'Dale tried to go up and get it, but Wan'Dale Robinson is very, very short. And, they said on the sidelines, well, if it was a guy who was average size, that wouldn't have been the problem. And then the next throw, I don't know what the hell he was trying to do. Low red zone, throws an interception right to Amani Hooker. And I'm like, oh my God, it was his best practice of the offseason. It was the most crisp practice. It was the best practice. And then he ends it with these 3 shit throws, specifically the 2. The one where he overshoots Io Manor, who's wide open in the end zone, and then he throws an interception on the next play. And I'm like, oh, Cam, you were so close. You were so close, Cam. And that was practice today. And look, I'm going to have to bust Easton's balls about this after I get off today because I was standing there. And I'd say it was his best practice. But, the end was not great. And there wasn't like it was anything special that was, wow, look at how Cam's just zipping the ball in there today. And then Easton puts up on Twitter, Cam had a great day today. I'm like, wait a minute, what? A great day today? The fact that he didn't suck? What? And then at the end, he struggled. And so that's what happened on the field. If you want to know what it looked like, again, Cam had some very crisp throws. He dropped it sidearm, and you can do this outside of the pocket. You can do this when you're not throwing over into the middle of the field. You cannot go sidearm into the middle of the field because there's going to be a Jeffrey Simmons standing there with his hand up ready to bat it down. But you can go sidearm and drop it when you're kind of throwing it out like he did for that touchdown. But now I want to get to my take of the day. And this hit me in the car when I was on the way back from practice. Do you guys remember the 2024 offseason? I dubbed it the offseason of toxic positivity. And when I did that, everybody was like, oh, Jared Stillman's a hater. He's got to find something to hate on. I mean, how can you toxic positivity? How's that even a bad thing? Shouldn't we all be positive? Yay! And I'm like, no, but it's too positive. Every interview they do, everybody's great. Everybody's doing well. Everybody's playing hard. Every time they make a mistake, Brian Callahan sits there and says, well, Denard's defense is so good. Levis throws a ball in the lake, and it bounced in the lake. It doesn't count. They go out there for practice against the Seahawks. Calvin Ridley says he wasn't running hard. Callahan goes, guys, it was hot outside. And I kept saying, what the fuck? Everything these people say is just about how great it is out here in Lollipop and Sunshine Land. Callahan went on bussing with the boys, and he told the boys when he was bussing with them, he said, I think we're going to surprise a lot of people this year. We added Lloyd Cushenberry. We got Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears. I don't want to say, I don't want to set expectations, but Will Levis, he's a big reason why I took this job. Callahan's out there telling Albert Breer, I told Rand, do your homework on the quarterbacks, but I don't think any of these guys in this draft are better than Will Levis, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May. And every time something was fucked up, there was always an excuse. It was always something. Remember how bad it got? The offseason of toxic positivity right before the start of the season. The Titans played a preseason game in New Orleans, and Corey Curtis, working the sideline, was talking about the fact that Dylan Radins, who only was going to be the right guard because Sadiq Charles quit, and Nicholas Petit-Frere, a.k.a. PT, who missed most of the offseason program, a lot of training camp, and as we all know, fucking stunk, was at right tackle. And Corey Curtis said, when he talked about the right side of the line, it was something going into camp that they were worried about. They felt okay, but now they feel confident about the right side of the offensive line. And Corey was very, very quick, because I just lit his ass up over that. But he was very, very quick to point out, and he was telling the truth here, when he said, that's what they were telling us. Oh, no, we feel very confident the right side of the line. Rand Carthon did an interview in the booth, and he said Jeff Simmons came into his office, and he thanked him for fixing the right side of the offensive line. And I called it the offseason of toxic positivity. And again, when I kept saying that, you people were like, how can something be toxically positive? I'll give you an example. Your son gets in a car wreck because he was texting and not paying attention to the road. And he says, Dad, I am so sorry. I can't believe I was texting. I can't believe. And you say, that's okay, son. You learn for next time. That's toxically positive. That's what the Titans did in 2024. They anointed Will Levis the franchise quarterback. He was not very good in the offseason. They made every excuse in the book for him. They went out and spent money in free agency, hoping that those patches would fix problems. They brought in a new coach who, unlike big, bad, mean old Mike Vrabel, was overly positive, overly collaborative about everything that they did. And then the season started. Week 1, they went to Chicago, and they got a punt blocked. And then Will Levis gave the game to the Bears. Week 2, they play the Jets, and Will Levis rolled the ball to the other team. Week 3, Malik Willis and the Green Bay Packers rolled into Nissan Stadium and dominated to the Titans, and the season was over. That's the vibe I'm getting right now. Robert Saleh goes up to the podium today. Cam Ward has been outstanding in these OTAs. Here's one of the cuts today from Robert Saleh, where, again, he can't praise Cam Ward enough. Take a look.
Needs to be corrected, and you correct that with him. How does that process, how has that been? And what's some of your feedback that you've gotten from him, just as far as his ability to take that constructive criticism and apply it?
He can take any criticism you throw at him. I've said it before. He moves on to the next play very quickly. He wants to know what he needs to get done. He has no ego to him. So just a lot of times he recognizes what the mistake was before you even get to him. But if you have a coaching point for him, he's very receptive to all of it.
Oh, he's just such a great. I mean, he learns so much. He has no ego. It's great. Again, Saleh said he was outstanding during OTAs. Well, I went to the OTAs. You can make excuses for him. You can add context to why he hasn't been outstanding. You can do all that stuff. You can't say he's been outstanding. He hasn't been outstanding. Even Jim Wyatt, who works for the team in his mailbags, has said Cam has not been outstanding in these OTAs. Now, he said, hey, let's not get carried away. Let's not turn into Jared Stillman. But he hasn't been outstanding. And now Saleh's up there saying, outstanding. And I'm like, oh, shit, here we go. And then Cam today at the podium. And I had a couple of questions for Cam that both seemed pretty important to me. And one of them was his own personal improvement, as in What have you been working on? Because last year wasn't good enough. And the second was a question I had for Will Levis 2 years ago. Because I said to Will Levis when he got up there, and I think everybody knew that 2024 was Levis's chance. You're the starting quarterback. There's no threat to replace you. Ryan Tannehill has retired. Mason Rudolph is the backup. He is not going to compete for the job with you. Malik Willis is not going to compete for the job with you. It is your job. The owner has gone on record and said, you're the quarterback. The coach has gone on record and said, you're the quarterback. This is your team. But I think we all knew Levis was going to get one crack at it. And I asked Levis, I said, do you think about that? About the fact that you get one crack at this? And if you're good, the going rate is $55 million a year. And Levis at the time said, yeah, thought about it. So I asked Cam about pressure because Cam last year didn't get results. They won 3 games. Cam last year had the lowest QBR in the NFL. Cam Ward, the third lowest PFF grade of any quarterback. That includes Justin Fields and Michael Penix and J.J. McCarthy and everybody else who stunk last year, other than Shedeur Sanders and Dylan Gabriel. And so I asked Cam specifically about that pressure to get results. Take a look. Do you feel the pressure to get results this year, given the way the league works with first-round picks? Usually if they don't get results by year 3, there's a quarterback that's brought in for competition, and right now you haven't had that last year or this year. Do you feel that pressure to get the results and the wins and statistics and everything else?
No. Either win or lose. It's really that simple. It's either going to win the day on the field or you're going to lose the day on the field. You're going to throw incompletion, you're going to throw a completion. It's honestly that simple. Football's not hard. The pressure is the pressure we put on ourselves as people in the locker room. It's not whether or not we have a bad play that's going to happen. I'm not going to go out there and go 50 for 50 every time. It's more just how we limit it and not letting just one bad play carry to the over as a whole, collectively, offensively. Just try to limit that. I think if we do that, we'll be one of the best offenses out there.
So what is the pressure you're putting on yourself?
Just to be perfect. Even though it's one of the hardest things to do in this world is be perfect, I want to be a perfect football player. And I think if I continue to strive to try and get that, I'd be able to help this team win a lot of games.
What? So on one hand, he's like, hey, there's not pressure on any individual play because it's not going to be perfect. I'm not going to go 50 for 50. So what's the pressure you put on yourself? To be perfect. What? And again, I go back to the question. Do you feel the pressure? Talking about Cam. Do you feel the pressure to get results this year? Because in the NFL, the way that it works is you get the benefit of the doubt the first year. It was Brian Callahan's fault. It was the roster's fault. It was this guy's fault. It was that guy's fault. If you don't get results starting in year 2, they're going to want to make a change. Minnesota has brought in Kyler Murray to compete with J.J. McCarthy. Who do you think is going to be the starting quarterback for the Vikings? It's going to be Kyler Murray. Tua Tagovailoa has been brought in to compete with Michael Penix. In Robert Saleh's previous stop, Zach Wilson got 2 years, and then they signed Aaron Rodgers. So I know that Cam Ward's got this year. As much as the excuse making was made over the past year, and some of it was valid. Our favorite.
The Cam Ward excuse of the day.
As much as I made fun of it, some of this stuff was valid. I do think that the Titans didn't have a great coaching staff. This time last year, I was fighting with you people about the Callahan Pee Wee program because you guys said, look at them playing rock, paper, scissors, Jared. Oh, my God. They're going to be accountable. And I'm like, yeah, this sounds like something a Pee Wee team would do. Are they going out and getting free sodas after the game? Ridiculous. else. Orange slices and candy and everything else. So if Cam Ward doesn't improve next year, they are going to bring in a quarterback to compete with Cam. This first year was the benefit of the doubt year, where it's Brian Callahan's fault, it's Chad Brinker's fault, it's the offensive line's fault, it's Bo Hardegree's fault, it's Mike McCoy's fault, it's the wide receiver's fault, it's everybody else's fault. It's not Cam's fault. Again, Mike Borgonzi, one of the most telling things he said over the last year was at the trade deadline when asked about Cam, said, well, he looks like a rookie quarterback on a team that had the number 1 pick. Translation, not his fault. Maybe that's true. Maybe it's not. I don't know. I think some of it was his fault because he was a rookie and he wasn't ready to play. I don't think all of it was his fault, but that's not, again, it's like 0 to 100 here in the NFL. Will Levis did some dumb shit as a rookie under Mike Vrabel. But if you remember, it wasn't Levis's fault. It was the offensive line's fault. It was Vrabel's fault. It was Tim Kelly's fault. It was everybody else's fault. 3 games in to 2024, Titan fans knew Levis wasn't the guy. It's 0 to 100 in terms of how they just totally switch on you. And that takes me back to Cam. Cam has been told by everybody wearing this color blue right here on my shirt, so everybody, I guess, except for me, Cam has been told by everybody inside that building that he played great last year, that he's right on schedule, that, hey, Cam, you don't have to worry about anything because you are the great Cam Ward. The same way the national media tells Mike Vrabel he's great is the same way every single person inside that building told Cam Ward he was great last year. The team was absolute dog shit. And as I said, team, which included Cam. But they don't believe that. Every single person. Well, that's going to change very quickly. And when I listen to Cam talk, I think Cam Ward's up there thinking he's a Supreme Court justice. I think Cam Ward's up there thinking, hey, I can just say whatever bullshit I want because I said whatever bullshit I wanted to last year and nobody held me accountable for it. And everybody told me it wasn't my fault that we sucked. And everybody told me it wasn't my fault that I sucked. And that's just not how this league works. And so I sat there today and I listened to Cam talk and I came away from it thinking, I don't think he understands how cutthroat this league is. I don't think he understands the league. I think he just understands that I was the number 1 pick. And when I got here, they told me I was the starting quarterback because I'm that good. And Brian Callahan never criticized me because Brian Callahan doesn't criticize anybody ever. And Brian Callahan got fired because he wasn't good enough. So they brought in Brian Dable. He's a better coach, and he's going to coach me up. And these receivers I had last year, they all stink, even though some of them are back, DK and Io Manor, etc. And wasn't my fault last year. And I'm like, in the NFL, it doesn't really matter whose fault it is. I want you guys to understand this. It doesn't matter. If they don't win and he doesn't play better, they're going to get rid of him. Or they're going to bring in competition. But I sense this ignorance from Cam, or maybe an arrogance born out of ignorance, that he doesn't think last year he was a part of the problem. I think he thinks he played great last year because that's what everybody's told him. I think he thinks I'm the quarterback and I'm the quarterback for life because I'm Cam Ward. And this is not matching reality. And then Coach Sunshine Pumper gets up there, just like the last Sunshine Pumper they had as a head coach, and just tells us something that, I'm sorry, you can be the biggest Cam Ward fan in the world. You know it's not true. You know Cam Ward has not been outstanding in OTAs. Because we've been to OTAs and we've all said, not just me, but everybody has said he has not been outstanding. That's what Brian Callahan does. I texted a buddy of mine, Jake Asman. Jake is a host at ESPN in New York. Jake is also a coworker of mine at SiriusXM on Mad Dog Radio. Jake hosts a show kind of similar to this, the Jake Asman Show. It's a Jets-themed show. And I texted Jake after I heard Salah's comments about Cam's been outstanding. And I said, does Robert Saleh just go up to the podium and gaslight the people? Like, I mean, is that what I'm looking at? Just pure, unadulterated bullshit? And Jake texted me back. Here, I want to pull it up because I don't want to misquote him. Jake texted me back, and he said, yup, in all caps. He is always going to back his players and doesn't keep it real. He was a Zach Wilson shill. And I hate to say it, but that's what it feels like to me. It feels like to me that the Titans have just decided, you know, we're going to do what we did with Will Levis with Cam Ward, and we're going to expect different results. I think you're going to get the same results because there's no accountability over there. It's almost as if the organization was so scarred from Mike Vrabel being an asshole that anybody who has the gumption to at all acknowledge anything remotely related to the truth gets kicked to the curb. Rand Carthon never spoke the truth. Chad Brinker never spoke the truth. Brian Callahan never spoke the truth. And normally what teams do is when they hire guys that are the exact opposite of the last guys, like Vrabel and J-Rob, who could be assholes, they say, okay, we want nice collaborative guys. Well, now we have the nice collaborative guys. That doesn't work. So we move off of them, and then we go get some more assholes. I think they've gone right back to hiring guys that just have no interest in telling the truth, but they just want to gaslight Titan fans and gaslight the owner and even gaslight themselves into believing things that are not reality. I mean, I asked Mike Borgonzi, first question of his offseason press conference, where the lights went black on him. You know, I guess the question was so hot, it blew up the electricity out there. And I said, you were the general manager this year and you didn't improve by a single game. What gives? And he talked about, well, they played hard all year. This is the NFL. And I don't understand this. This is the Titans we're talking about here. Like, again, I asked Cam Ward about the pressure of, dude, if you don't get it done this year, and we know what getting it done is, you better either go out and throw for 345 and 3 TDs every game and lose, or you better win. That's how it works in the NFL. You've already seen your head coach and the guy who was in charge of football operations when you got drafted, they've already been fired. So that's how this, what's the pressure? Oh, we don't feel any pressure. We don't feel any pressure because every time I show up to work, everybody tells me that my farts are perfume. And I'm like, that's not how this works. Especially with the Titans, the most reactive owner in the league who fires everyone all the time. And this reminds me so much of 2024. It is just, you cannot escape it. I was stood there on the practice field and I watched the Seattle Seahawks dominate, just fucking dominate the Titans offense. And I watched Will Levis in the 2-minute drill throw an interception to Devin Witherspoon, and Devin Witherspoon ran the ball over to Jamal Adams, and all the Seahawk people and Jamal Adams had a good time, and everybody, ha, 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 ha. And Callahan just standing there, blows the whistle, and outruns Seattle. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe that's the deal. They get an interception, their defense gets to come off, but, I mean, you're going to need more 2-minute drill reps here for the starting offense. And then after Seattle went, here comes Mason Rudolph. And I thought, what? I saw Jeffrey Simmons throw punches the first day of practice, and he stayed out there. I'm like, what? And I'm doing the same thing right now. This feels like the offseason of Toxic Positivity 2.0. And that's with a new coach and a new coaching staff and new players and new everything else. And it feels like Callahan and Levis. That's what it feels like to me. And I know you guys are going to say I'm a party pooper and you don't understand, Jared, and you're a hater, Jared, and it's not fair, Jared. That's okay. You guys said the same thing in 2024. That, what was it? Oh, the Titan Coliseum podcast, which I actually enjoyed. Although I never listened to the whole podcast. I would just see the little cuts on Twitter, and I thought they were kind of funny. The Titans Coliseum podcast went ape shit about me when I talked about toxic positivity. And now I guarantee you, if I told those same guys, hey, this reminds me of 2024 when you told me I was being a chief asshole and being negative and everything else, they'd say, oh, now you're just being an asshole and now you're being negative. And that's just what I say. And that's just what I feel. I asked Cam about improvement because I think I know where Cam needs to improve. But I asked Cam today, where are you trying to improve from year 1 to year 2? Here's what Cam said. Take a look. How much better personally do you have to be this year than you were last year?
I just think I got to be better every day. It's not more of just being better each and every game, just being consistent each and every game, knowing who I'm playing up front, knowing who I'm playing in the back end, having good timing with my receivers like we've been having this whole OTAs in minicamp. And then when the lights get bright, when the times get big, we all got to lock in together like we've been doing out here and just make plays together.
We've been having a great OTAs. We've been having a great minicamp. And when the lights flash, we just got to lock in the way we've locked in out here. Again, maybe these super, super secret practices that they've had, the closed OTAs, maybe Cam Ward has gone out and performed like Patrick Mahomes, but I don't even know how many we've been able to see. I think this might have been practice 5 or 6. There hasn't been anything that resembles what it should look like during a game. There isn't anything that I've seen on a consistent basis that looks like, hey, this is what we need to see in the fall. And it goes back to toxic positivity where everything is good. Everything that is bad, there is an excuse for it. And just trust the excuses. And if you don't trust the excuses, you have a personal vendetta against the Titans. Just like the personal vendetta everybody said I had against Rand Carthon. Just like the personal vendetta everybody said I had against Brian Callahan and Chad Brinker. Just like the personal vendetta you people say that I have about Cam Ward right now. And look, I'm rooting for Cam. I'm a Titan fan. And I think it could have worked with Cam. I don't think it can now. I think the toothpaste is out of the tube. I think they've ruined it. I think the way that they approach it, I find Cam to be too entitled. And he reminds me a lot of Levis, where he gets up there and he says things that he thinks should land a certain way. But with me, I'm still hung up on last year, you, a rookie who had never done anything in the NFL, getting Warren Moon to unretire his number for you, and then saying you're going to have a top 10 offense in the league, and you finished 31st. And now you're up there saying the same shit this year. And then when asked about what went wrong or where do you need to improve, or it's all generic, well, we got to get better every day. Oh, we got to strive for perfection. Oh, we got to, not any concrete, hey, last year I felt at times like I wasn't great at moving the pocket. So this is something I've worked on. I really have been focused this year on nailing my progressions. I've really been, no, it's just all generic horse crap. And I know he's trying to get up there and give the quarterback version of coach talk. Like he's trying to answer the question without answering the question the way that I'm sure he's seen this. But what he did for me was he looked like somebody that wasn't willing to admit that he wasn't very good last year. And maybe it's one thing for a coach not to get up there and say Cam wasn't very good last year. The first person who needs to say Cam wasn't very good last year is Cam. But I don't think Cam thought he wasn't very good last year because everybody around here has told Cam how great he is. And that reminds me of Levis. I mean, I remember how uncomfortable I was when the team officially transitioned to the Levis era. And for me, that moment was when Amy Adams Strunk sat down with Mike Keith after she fired Mike Vrabel, and she said to the fans that they should be excited because they had Rand Carthon, they had a bunch of cap space, and they have a young quarterback. And when the owner says, we have a young quarterback, that's a message for everybody in the league. That is, we believe in this guy. He's our guy. And so that to me is officially when the Levis era began, was when she did that. And from that point forward until about the shoulder injury before and during the Colts game in 24, it was like everything Will Levis did was just QB1 material. The Titans took a picture of Levis's Mercedes-Benz in the parking lot at 4 a.m. on the first day of training camp. QB1 is the first one to arrive. Yeah! Callahan's doing interviews talking about how Levis is better than Drake May and Jaden Daniels. Callahan's telling Bussin' with the boys he's everything you want in a franchise quarterback. The team treated Will Levis like he had accomplished something that he had not. And in the end, I think that ended up being a problem. I remember when Levis came up with his mayonnaise perfume, and I said, you know, do what you want. It's your money. I mean, it's your career. It's your life. It's your reputation. But it feels to me like if things don't go well, you're going to take the brunt of it for this mayonnaise commercial. And if I was your parent, I would just say, don't put yourself out there yet. Like, you know, when you're Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes and you've got a Super Bowl or you're established as a top player or top duo in the league and you want to do the Mahomes and Auto thing, which I actually thought was pretty funny, fine. But, you know, you haven't really ever started in the NFL and now you're doing mayonnaise commercials. That was a joke. And with Cam, I kind of feel like it's the same, where he's trying to be something he isn't yet. And instead of saying, hey, forget about trying to be something you're not. Let's just baby step this out. Instead of that, it's, no, you go show us every day. Here's Warren Moon's number. And I think Cam had the potential as a draft prospect to end up being a good quarterback. If the Rams, an organization clearly with a plan, had drafted him with Matthew Stafford there and said, hey, it's going to be a couple years on the bench, what they're trying to do with Ty Simpson, what the Packers did with Jordan Love, if they had a plan of we're going to draft Cam, we're going to sit him on the bench this year behind Daniel Jones, who was available and looking for a starting job at the time. We're going to sign Daniel Jones. We're going to draft Cam Ward. Right now, Vegas has got it great. They've got Kirk Cousins, and if Mendoza's not ready, Cousins can start. And if Mendoza's ready, Cousins knows he's going to be the backup. That's how it should be. But they didn't do that. They just said, let's just go get Brandon Allen. He's the cheapest loser out there. Okay. They did it all wrong. And they keep doing it all wrong. And they keep looking at us saying, well, he's the next Brett Favre. And it's like, what? And I remember when they drafted Cam and Brinker was like, Cam's confident. He's not cocky. I think he might be a little cocky. I don't think Cam is self-aware. I don't think Cam understands, like, dude, this is the NFL. You better get to producing, and you better get to producing quickly, or else you're going to be just like your buddy Will Levis. I don't think people realize that. I don't think the Titans realize that. I think the Titans took Cam Ward and thought, there's no way we can fuck this guy up. And in my 30 years of watching the NFL, there are two quarterbacks that there was no way you could fuck them up. Peyton Manning in Indianapolis, Joe Burrow in Cincinnati. That's it. Joe Rexrode's like, I think Mahomes would have been good no matter what. I'm like, do you? Or do you think it helped Mahomes that he went to Andy Reid, the best offensive coach of the era, and sat the bench behind Alex Smith and had Travis Kelce, a Hall of Fame tight end, and had Tyreek Hill, the fastest receiver, and went on to a team that had made the playoffs the year before. I mean, it's a disaster. I think they've already ruined the kid. So, with that, let's get to your reaction because I'm sure a lot of you want to weigh in on there. As far as defense and everything else today, there was no real takeaway from the defense. I would say this, though, and I understand Salah's cautious and because Dante Fowler got hurt. Jeffrey Simmons is just standing over there with a ball cap. I'm not even sure John Franklin Myers got in there during team period and anything else. You can't talk about how important competition is and then tell Jeffrey Simmons and John Franklin Myers, hey, you guys just sit over there and put your ball caps on. I don't like that. You can practice them a little bit. Can't play football scared. Okay, let's go to your reaction here on the program. George in Murfreesboro says, didn't A to Z write last week that Cam Ward stinking it up is actually good? I don't think they wrote that. I think they wrote Cornell Tate being, I think they wrote Cornell Tate being out of OTAs one day because he was, mildly injured was a good thing. And I'm like, that's ridiculous. I mean, that's okay. One person said 30 minutes late. Yes, today's show was scheduled for 2:00. But then when they told me Cam was talking and practice ended at about 1:10, I'm like, well, I should wait for the Cam Ward press conference. So I did. So I don't consider that late. I consider that doing the job to the best of my ability. Let's see. One person says, Zach Lyons calling himself an unbiased reporter, unlike the media personality Stillman, is crazy. When did Zach Lyons say that? Did Zach Lyons actually say he was an unbiased reporter, unlike me? Well, Zach Lyons isn't even at practice. So I don't know how he can be unbiased on one hand. And on the other hand, I remember last year, and I say this with all due respect, I'm not trying to take a pot shot here, though it's going to sound like this. When I was a kid, Titans Talkback was must listen to radio. Mark, Blaine, and Kevin. And I mean, they used to get into it with the callers. I mean, I remember driving back to college one time and hearing Kevin Dyson just rip on Vince Young. And so that show was a gold standard for me for years. I absolutely loved it. And then when it came to Titans Talkback, they've made changes over the years, some that I haven't really liked. Last year, I'm in the car listening to Titans Talkback, and it might as well just be called Titans Pump Up because they get beat by 30 points, and then they sit there and say good things about the team. But the one thing that drove me crazy was I'm listening to Zach Lyons on Talkback, and he's like, if you're trying to figure out if Cam's the guy or not, I think he's already the guy. And again, I'm like, based off of what? Based off of what? And I remember Zach Lyons in the postgame show after Levis threw the ball to the Chicago Bears. I was cleaning out my old house because we had moved. And it was a Sunday, and I had moved that weekend. And so I was cleaning out my old house, and I was listening to Titans Talkback, and I'm listening to Zach Lyons say, Tom Brady makes plays like that. I'm like, on what fucking planet are you talking about? When Tom Brady was Will Levis's age, he was on his way to winning the Super Bowl. So don't give me that unbiased media personality bullshit. I mean, I'm a Titan fan. Make no mistake about that. I know a lot of people don't believe that. But I am a Titan fan. But let's not kid ourselves here about, hey, Jared's biased, Jared's pro-Titan, anti. I just tell you what I see. I just say it as it is. And I've only been right about the last 900 things in which I'm seeing every day. The Cornell Tate thing where I don't want to draft him because of his 40 time and I didn't think he was that good. That's not somebody I'm seeing every day. I'm talking about when I'm watching the press conferences, when I'm there, when I'm seeing and watching all the. I was right about Rand Carthon. I was right about Brian Callahan and his Pee Wee program. And I was right about the offseason of toxic positivity. And I was right about Mike Vrabel. And I was right about Andre Dillard. And I was right about PT. I went to that practice at the beginning of the 2023 offseason, I got out. I said, my dad, I go, this offensive line is horrible. You people. Jared Stillman's biased. I am getting so fucking tired of people that are like, Jared Stillman is a bad faith actor. He does it for clicks. Was I right about Rand Carthon? Was I right about the Pee Wee program? Brian Callahan said that by having these competitions that they had in the offseason last year, that was going to make them more accountable, and they were going to be more disciplined, and they were going to right the wrongs in 2024. And then in the first game of the season, Jeffrey Simmons picks up a ridiculous personnel foul penalty that cost them any shot they really had of coming back and winning the game. I was right about 2024's offseason, about L'Jarius Sneed's knees. I was right about Will Levis. I was right about the toxic positivity. I was right about the team last year. I was right so far about Cam Ward. I've been right. So is that bad faith? Is that being disingenuous, or is that being right? I was right about Chad Brinker's AI bullshit. I was right. One person says, I'm sure Jared would love to feel foolish and Cam to be successful. Absolutely. I mean, I love the Titans. You guys don't understand. Maybe because your brains aren't wired like mine. I can be very skeptical of the Titans. I can be very critical of the Titans. It doesn't mean that I don't love the Titans. I love my football team. But we need to grow a pair and call it how it is. One person says, I think Cam is living in his own world while Titans fans are ascribing to him accolades he has not earned. Toxic positivity. In reality, Cam has a lot to prove. The first moment for me on this was not when they drafted Cam, because Cam would have gone number 1 overall no matter what. It was when, right after they drafted him, in less than a 24-hour period, the coach got up there and said, you do not trade a pick, the player of the caliber of Cam's. The general manager got up and said he has comparable traits to Patrick Mahomes, and they unretired a Hall of Famer's number for him. At that point, you've anointed him the king. And I'm like, that's too early. You can't do that in this league. Cannot do it. One person says, we got to blame that interception on the option routes Paul Kaharski was obsessed with today. I did hear PK keep asking about the option routes. He's obviously going to write something about it. And it is, I mean, if you're into that stuff, it is interesting. Again, I don't think we need to get down to the nitty gritty of the scheme yet, because I think this team's got a lot of issues they got to work through before the scheme. Again, when we're talking about scheme, here's what I'd say. If the wide receiver is 7 yards outside the hash and Cam's got to put the ball and throw him open, can he do it? And I still don't know what that would be. One person says, what's a good team I can hop on the bandwagon of since the Titans are already out of the playoffs? No. Cam said their goal is to make the playoffs. I still think the Titans should start 2-1 this year. They should beat the Jets. They should beat the Giants. And the Rams are week 2. They're going to lose that one. No, the Rams aren't week 2. Who's week 2? I don't know. They should start 1-2. Or excuse me, they should start 2-1. If they start off 0-3 again the way they have the last 2 years, it is going to be something around here. This person says, Jared, if you think that, then you have to ask Cam straight up next time, do you think you were part of the problem last year, and how so? That's not a bad question. Again, I asked on where do you need to improve? Do you feel the pressure of this year? Sometimes when you do things like that, you kind of lead them into talking about last year, where they say, well, I'm not worried about last year. I'm on to this year. I don't think Cam would do that, but that's not a bad question based off of some of the things Cam said. I mean, I hate to say it, fast car. I'm not going to give you my phone number, but should have texted me that at that time. Say, hey, you should put this one there. One person says even 1045 is beginning to admit it. Who? I mean, I know the morning show that is paid for by the Titans of boring and boring. I know they're not about to admit it. Buck, I don't want to speak out of church here. Personally, I think Buck thinks Cam sucks. I'm not saying Buck said Cam sucks. I'm just telling you, I think Buck thinks Cam sucks. Blaine I'll say it, Blaine is a call it how he sees it kind of guy. I guarantee you in the afternoons, they are not saying that Cam might suck. But that is something if even 104.5 is sitting there saying, oh, I don't know. One person says, do you think the coaches are going to shit on Cam in front of you media, Jared? You have no idea what's said to him behind the scenes. They aren't going to give you the ammunition. No, but I do know how other coaches handle these things. You think Mike Vrabel would have gotten up there and said, Cam's been outstanding? No. Now, Vrabel had his fair share of horse shit over the years, but not like this. Not like Callahan, not like Rand, not like Brinker, not like Robert Saleh. Aaron says, I'm calling it. The Titans will go 4-13 this season, and that'll be justification for the Scam Boys to keep him around. Why? Because they win one more game. Well, we were better than we were last year, Jared. We're actually joking on the sideline today at practice about how, the team wasn't that much worse last year than they were the year before. And it's like, well, they weren't worse because they were 3-14 and they were 3-14 again. But by every other metric, they actually technically were a worse football team in 2025 than they were in 2024. If you can believe that, which is amazing to me. This person says, essentially, Jared is putting out trust me, bro content. Like, how do you expect the fans to believe something they haven't seen? Like, the normal reaction is to be skeptical that Cam is bad until we see it. I don't think I'm putting out trust me, bro content. I think the team is putting out trust me, bro content. I mean, last week, I said on Monday, I'm like, Cam's inaccurate. He's not improving. I think he sucks. I think he's going to be a bust. And I don't know what day of the week it was, Tuesday, Wednesday. The team put out a graphic of Cam throwing with the clouds in the background and a Robert Saleh quote about how Cam's really, really good. I think that's trust me, bro content. I don't think I'm saying trust me, bro. I'm saying this is what Jared sees. This is what Jared thinks. Not trust me, bro. Cam sucks. I'm just telling you what I see. I don't see it, man. He says, fair point. The team is definitely putting out trust me, bro. When Mike Borgonzi said, if you draft the quarterback number one, you got to have a plan. And then it was obvious that they didn't have a plan for Cam. And then at the trade deadline, I asked him about that plan. And he talked about how, Cam's still developing and, again, kind of filibustered his way through that one. That was trust me, bro. I'm not saying trust me, bro. You can believe whatever you want. Most of you don't trust me. I've just been right most of the time. One person says, it's June. He hasn't played one game with Tate Wandale Robinson, the new offense. Relax. So I should just, when you guys say things like it's June or it's the off season, Jared, is that your way of saying, hey, don't worry about the Titans sucking. Let's worry about the Titans sucking in the offseason. But for right now, let's just go home and get on the couch and eat our popcorn and watch TV and live our lives. I mean, I guess I could do that. But instead, I decided to go out to the practice field and take a look and see what it actually looks like. And what it looks like, Cam had his best practice of the day, and then he goes out there and overshoots Io Manor that would have been a touchdown, and then fucking throws an interception on the last play. Man, some of you people are wild here on the chat. LF says, why can't there be just only one other reporter or beat writer that agrees with Jared? How is it possible that every other media can't even acknowledge what Jared is seeing? I think it's interesting. I mean, again, I kind of felt like with the Rand Carthon stuff, nobody else in the media was willing to go there on Rand. And then the second he got fired, Kaharski put out that piece about him sleeping on the plane. If you remember, one of the things I said when it came to Rand was that somebody in the building had told me that Rand likes to play general manager more than he likes to be general manager. And there was a specific story, but I can't tell you the specific story or else it'll give it away who it was that told me that. But I had heard rumblings and things like that, and I put it out there publicly. And I got called every single name in the book for getting out there and saying that. Kaharski waits until the guy's fired, and then he puts it out there. And I'm not singling out Paul here. I'm using this as an example. But I think that's more so what's happening here. Because I remember when everybody was hyping up Levis the exact same way they're hyping up Cam now. And I saw Cam in those Seahawk practices, or Levis in those Seahawk practices, and I was like, oh my God. And nobody had the oh my God with Levis until he rolled the ball on the ground against the Jets. I remember when people were saying to me after the Chicago game, you can't make up your mind on him after one play, Jared. I'm like, even though it is the single dumbest play that we have seen, maybe in Tennessee Titans history, I think we could say that one there. Too funny. One person says, TDG does not care about reality. Neither does the Titans brass. Hey, leave my man TDG alone. I've got TDG's right here in my heart. And even though we disagree every day about everything, TDG's always, he knows he's got a place right here in my heart. This person says the reporters want to be liked by the team. Jared doesn't seem to care. Well, I want to just point something out. I am not a beat guy, so I'm not going down there every day. I'm not needing guys to cooperate with me for stories. I'm not any of those things. Paul, I think, pisses players off to a certain extent. I don't think Paul's trying to be buddies with the players, but I do think there's a certain level of access that Paul needs in order to do his job the way that he does his job. I don't have any access with the Titans other than I go to practice and go to press conferences. I don't need any access. I don't need any scoops from the team. I don't need anything. The one thing that really pissed me off last year was when I caught wind that Taylor Zarzour was going to be the Titans play-by-play guy, and I put it out there that apparently Taylor Zarzour is going to be the guy to replace Mike Keith. And the Titans would not confirm nor deny that. And then 2 hours later, Buck puts out a story saying that it's there's 3 people in the running for the gig, and Zarzour's one of them. No, it was Zarzour's job. And that bothered me because I felt like, and I've said this to Buck publicly or privately, but I felt like Buck knew better. And he put out what the team wanted out there. So I just don't care. Because what I care about, there was a long time ago in my life, I told the story when I was in Louisville, where I felt like I was at the fork in the road between being friends with people, being liked, going on charters, that kind of stuff, and telling it like it is. And I'd rather just tell it like it is. And who knows? I mean, maybe if I kissed more ass and I lied to people about shit, maybe I'd be the voice of the Titans instead of Taylor Zarzour. I don't know. But that's just not me. I just want this team to win. And the antagonistic stuff, it doesn't stop even when they're good. But what happens is instead of, me bitching about everything that they do, it's then so-and-so says the Titans aren't good, and I disagree with that. So now that's going to be the thing that we talk about. But man, I'm telling you, this feels like 2024's offseason all over again. I'd also like to know where JC Latham was today because he wasn't out there. That's going to do it for us. We are out of here today. Like and subscribe. Once again, thank you to every single one of you who has helped us get over 5,000. That's right, 5,000 subscribers. Let's try to get it to 6 now. Let's try to keep on growing. Like and subscribe. Hit the notifications so you know when Stillman Company's on my plan. But who knows? My plan is to be on tomorrow after minicamp, and then that'll be that for the week. But who knows? Like and subscribe, Stillman & Company. We'll see everybody tomorrow, probably around 2 o'clock.